We do have a forum. I think the gang is all here, so everyone please rise to the pledge of allegiance and remain standing for a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Moment of silence, please. Thank you. Need to adopt the agenda?
I'm thinking a couple of things, Mr. Chair.
Yeah.
I would ask that the board delete 3 items to adopt the agenda. Item H4 is an appointment that was just an error on my part, that you already made. Item M3 is an informational item, but I did not have time to research it in order to answer questions, so I need to delete that one and put it on for next month. And you have a closed session motion that has 2 pieces. The second piece is no longer necessary, so when you get to that motion for closed meeting, you can leave off the legal part of the motion. And that's in N1. And those are the 3 that I have. Delete H4, delete M3, and delete the second part of the closed meeting motion.
Do we have any addendums? We
Not,
talked about the one addendum at the building task force meeting,
I'm sorry.
addendum for, we need to give Mr. Jenkins some help.
Oh, okay.
We were looking at doing something there, but I don't know where to put that under. New business. But
It would be either new business under J in the afternoon or new business in the evening at S.
I'm okay with this. And I was going to offer a deletion myself, Mr. Chairman. The public hearing for tonight, since the planning commission has not completed their work on the proposed zoning amendments, I thought perhaps we should just delete the public hearing for tonight's meeting.
Anyone else comment?
My only concern there, Mr. Chairman, is that it's been advertised. I appreciate the board may send it back to the planning commission. That's one of the actions that it certainly can take. On such short notice, there may be people coming tonight who expect this because it's on the agenda. That's my only concern.
Sure, and I thought of that as well. But what we can do, there'll be public comment at tonight's meeting, so all we have to do is just append the public comments to the later public hearing comments, and they would all be together. And if anyone shows up and wants to speak about it, they would be able to do so tonight.
One thing you might consider is opening it and continuing it like the planning commission did, because if you don't hold it, we have to re-advertise. Whereas if you open it and continue it, we don't.
I really see no point in opening it at all, because we don't know what recommendation we'll receive, if any, from the planning commission. That was my idea of this continuing for tonight. And if we have to re-advertise it, we won't do it the first time. I think this is a situation where the board itself put its stuff out there, just like the problems that we've seen in the last several months, where we don't allow the planning commission proper time to
I see no reason for that.
Again, the only thing I would offer, Mr. Chairman, and I don't know if the county administrator has given us her opinion, I don't know if the county attorney wants to jump in here, but this could just be, I just want to make sure that this is not going to stop the process, I guess, of what's been started when the planning commission opened their public hearing. They have 9 days. I mean, we can act at any point within that 9 days. So, if we take this off of our agenda now, we will have to re-advertise it, and I'm just wondering if that plays with the timeline that, or creates a problem down the road with the timeline that's already been started. Maybe it doesn't.
The timeline's been established, I believe Mr. Goff can weigh in on that, I'm sure he should, but the timeline's already been established when this board sent it to the planning commission, they opened their hearing.
I just remember some situations where people come a long distance so that they can speak about this, whether it's public comment or public hearing, and when they find out when they show up that it's been removed from the agenda, it creates some heartburn.
Can you comment, Mr. Dolan?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Garp is correct. You have an option to open the public hearing, and then you can recess that. You could take comments tonight if someone had come a long distance and they wanted to be heard, and then still not take any action. You could recess it if nobody speaks and announce the time when that the public hearing is going to be continued to receive more public input. So if you take it off, she's right, I think Mr. Linsky's right, that it would have to be re-advertised in order for you to do it again. So just for what it's worth, in my opinion, you have more options if you simply open it and recess it one way or the other.
Anybody else want to comment?
I think we should open it, recess it, so people can feel comfortable about making their comments, and it's being heard as opposed to coming and making a comment and not knowing if it's really part of the public hearing. So,
Well, like I said, it wouldn't, my view was it wouldn't have to be part of the public hearing. You could pin any public comment tonight that pertains to it. You could just keep track of that. You could look at the public comments for the public hearing. It's whatever the board wants to do. I just thought it would be just be simpler, be cleaner if we just, because we did the same thing with that all now or whatever it was, and I think we actually wanted to continue the meeting, but we didn't. And simply because one or more of us forgot to do something, it just complicated the whole thing. It would be simpler and cleaner if we just took it off the agenda. Is what I was thinking.
well, at this point, it's never simpler or cleaner when you put a bump in the road.
That's the simplest and cleanest thing ever.
We just need a consensus for this.
You need a motion to vote to amend the agenda with all of the things that I mentioned, if you want to do those things, as well as some variation on what Mr. Frazier has recommended. You have 5 things: delete H4, delete M3, delete second part of closed session motion, add S4, and Mr. Frazier has proposed deleting the public hearing, but nobody's made a motion that I've heard.
Well, I would put all that in the form of a motion.
So, let me get this straight. If we cancel
you'd probably save a month,
Probably.
depending on,
Save a month? Uh-huh.
because the timing of the advertisements.
Well, sounds like 6 of one and half a dozen of the other. Probably not that big a deal either way. Any more comments? Motion fails for lack of a second. Want to try the other way?
Mr. Chairman, I will move to amend the agenda with the 4 items that were laid out by the county administrator. That would be the 2 deletions, 3 deletions, and the addition of S4 under new business tonight. With respect to Mr. Jacobs.
I'll second it.
Motion made and second, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Takes care of that. Approval of minutes, do we have any we can approve?
Gentlemen, you have 4 sets of minutes that were posted. The September 6th minutes were posted late. You have September 6th, October 3rd, October 9th, and October 17th. I received suggestions for 2 corrections to the September 6th meeting today, and corrected those and emailed them out. And at your seat is a front and back piece of paper that has the correction that was made to, can I borrow somebody's? One correction was, I had misspelled war, and so I corrected that on page 26. And on page 34, there was a correction to the language in the discussion about what other localities send their special use and special exception applications through the PZA and which ones do not. The language that was previously in the minutes, proposed minutes, said Mr. Frazier and Mr. Lisinski discussed which surrounding counties use the method of separate applications for special use and special exception, and it's being proposed to be replaced with the language, Mr. Frazier asked Mr. Lisinski what counties do it differently than Rappahannock. Mr. Lisinski said that he did not have the names of any counties, but that he would find out. So those are the 2 changes to the September 6 minutes that were posted, and the other 3 were posted with the agenda and have not changed. And I do not have the October 2nd or October 12th meetings done yet.
I actually had another proposed change to the minutes. I apologize, I called. I don't know if this is the right time to suggest that.
September 6th.
Yes, September 6th. On page 16 under my report about the broadband committee, I believe there's something that says that I would have the survey results by the next meeting, which would have been October. The survey was open until the end of October, so I can't think of why I would have said that, unless it's on the tape that I misspoke, but that's not accurate.
Where is it in broadband committee update?
It is toward the bottom, under old business, page 16, broadband committee update. It's after the town hall dates. Let me see here. Oh, I'm sorry, it's top of page 17.
Okay, so
The
it's
last sentence there.
at its next meeting.
Yeah,
What if we make it at an upcoming meeting?
that's fine.
separately. I've read them all, and with the changes duly noted for, I'd say, let's approve the minutes for September 6th, October 3rd, October 9th, and October 17th. That's a motion.
I'll second it.
Motion made and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Those minutes are approved. About our schools. Mrs. Grant.
Good afternoon. Lots of great things happening in Pantherland as always since last we met. Last week, our Rappahannock 7th graders traveled to the Winchester Expo Center, the old Sportsplex, for our annual Career Tech Career Pathways Consortium Worlds of Work Expo. You may remember me talking to you about that several years ago at its inception. It's still going strong, serving well over 3,000 7th graders in the region. That consortium is made up of 7 school districts and the community college representatives, and we put it together to give 7th grade students hands-on opportunities to explore career pathways, because the mandates coming from the state have academic career plans being made as early as 7th and 8th grade. And at that age, they're 12 years old, maybe not so adept at picking a career path when you're 12, So this Pathways Consortium got together, and we thought, and as a former career tech director, we thought, how do we make career pathways meaningful to 7th grade students? So we made it like Disney World. So the 7th graders go through the Career Expo and do all sorts of hands-on things like dissecting pig hearts and giving fake arms to phlebotomy tests. Is really gross, but they love it. They explore the career pathways so that when they come back, they can better track their academic career plan. So that happened last week. Very huge success again, so we're very proud of that. The continuation of that happens this week on Wednesday, where our high school career day is going on. So we have lots of local experts coming in to help us talk to our high school students about career fields, their journey to get there, and what you need to do. So that's happening this week. Over the weekend, 2 of our student-created murals in the art classes, both from the elementary and the high school, were on display at the Washington Schoolhouse as part of the RAC Art Tour, which is really exciting for the students and the art teachers who helped put that together. As of October 25th, all RCPS staff have been ALICE certified, which is our active shooter training, meaning that they've received their ALICE program E-module and also active shooter simulation training, which is not very fun, of course, but necessary as we watch the news and every day see more instances of this happen. ALICE stands for Alert, Lockdown, Barricade, Inform, Counter, and Evacuate. Now the next phase of this is using that training expertise of everyone who's gone through it and updating our crisis management plans and drills, talking to parents about the changes in safety, and seeing how that moves forward. Friday, on a more positive note, was our last football Friday Night Lights game. It was also senior night, where we recognized 20 of our student athletes in football, band, and cheer. The game was thrilling to watch, and the Panthers were victorious with an end score of 27-18, giving us another winning season of 6-4. Very happy. Also over the weekend, the volleyball Lady Panthers won their first regional playoff game, which means they host the semifinals tonight at 6:30. Saturday this weekend, the girls cross-country team will compete in the state tournament in Great Meadows at 11:45, and our theater troupe will host the Region 1B theater competition at RCHS at 1 o'clock. Our annual Veterans Day ceremony is this Friday, November 10th at 10:30 a.m. Our guest speaker this Friday is our RCHS history teacher, Sergeant Craig Long. The event is sponsored by our band boosters, and the Lions Club provide refreshments for the veterans and their families. The community is invited to attend, and that starts at 10:30. And finally, it is November, so annually every November we bring to you our November appropriations request. Those are carryover funds from our different federal grant monies, usually supporting our special services, special education, Title I services, our federal subsidies with free and reduced lunch, those type of things. This time is a bit higher than usual because we did receive 2 large grants. Our Commit to Be Fit grant and our safety grant are also in there. So those are part of the appropriation request. Now, superintendent's report. You have any questions for me?
We're very satisfied, I guess.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Shannon.
From Shannon Grimsley, we go to Shannon Hollow now, BoS Virginia Regional County.
Thank you for having me. Can you hear me?
There you go.
The parade of Shannons. Thank you very much for having me. My name is Shannon Holland. I'm the Special Projects Manager with the Central Virginia Partnership for Economic Development. And I'm here to talk about Go Virginia on behalf of Helen Coffin, who is our president. We're just making sure we get around to every county in Region 9 to talk about the opportunities for grant funding through the Go Virginia program. Brenda, can you? Thank you. So what is Go Virginia? Essentially, it is a program that's designed to help create more higher paying jobs throughout the state through incentivizing collaboration between business, education, and government. This was determined as a priority in the state because Virginia really strongly needs to improve private sector growth and diversify economies in different regions of the state through collaboration. And the state recognizes that it really must be a catalyst for this change. Just 3 slides here to quickly show the economic impact of changes in the Virginia economy overall. Here you'll see how Virginia has the GF, Virginia gross state product compared to the U.S. GDP over time, and since about 2010 there's been a big drop in where Virginia falls as compared to the rest of the country. Next slide. We'll give you a better idea of why this is happening. And it has a lot to do with the types of jobs that we're losing and the ones that we're gaining. So if you look at this slide, you'll see the average job contribution to GSP, say, of a leisure and hospitality service job is $38,000, but the contribution of a financial services or information services job is more in the $400,000 range. Next slide. So although you can see that overall the state has perhaps gained more jobs, we have gained more jobs in the sectors that don't have those higher paying jobs. So we need to make an impact and become less reliant on federal government, et cetera. So moving forward, thank you. This is a map showing the regional boundaries of how the Go Virginia funding is coming through to the state. We are Region 9, which is kind of hard to see from the audience out here, so it's sort of the light blue area. That is Region 9, of which, oh, wow. You have skills. That's wonderful, thank you. So that's Region 9, and obviously Rappahannock County is a part of that. Thank you very much. So as we advance to the next slide, you'll see Region 9, of which Rappahannock County is a part. We have 11 localities involved, including Planning District 9 and 10. Our chair right now is Brian Cole, who's the executive site leader at LexisNexis in Charlottesville. We love having him because he is a global manager of operations around the world, so that really helps us keep a large perspective. Thank you, Brenda. Here's a quick idea of our timeline, and I don't think that's so important right now other than the reason I'm here. It's actually been quite an accelerated program since the time when the state initiated these funds to developing a regional plan, which we did create this summer and rolled out on September 12th. And now we're out telling each county about what we're doing so we can make sure that everybody's engaged in finding the right project for their home area. So we are out looking for projects now, and that's why I'm here talking to you. Thank you, Brenda. Thanks. So there are two pots of money for which we can solicit funding through Region 9 for the Go funding. The first one are the funds that are allocated on a per capita basis based on the population of each region. In Region 9, it will be about $800,000. You can see that on the far right-hand side. In the next couple of months, there will also be $11.3 million available on a competitive basis, but those projects have to be inter-regional, meaning it can't only serve only our region. It must be, say we collaborate with the group out of Norfolk, etc. We just find a way to make collaborations between regions. So for a project to qualify for Go Virginia funding, it must lead to higher paying jobs. The project has to address opportunities and priorities of the Region 9 Go Virginia plan, which is available on our website, govirginia9.org. The funding that we need to create match funding of dollar for dollars requested, and 2 localities must be involved. 2 localities, it can be 2 counties, the city and the county, at least 2. I do know Region 9, we're trying to find projects that reach the most people possible within the region. You know, priority, we find one that would include all counties. And then each participating locality, at least 2 of those localities do have to contribute funding. Thank you. And so how to give you an overview, well actually I'll give you an overview right here of our Region 9 growth plan and recommended opportunities that are listed in our growth plan. Talent development, growing existing businesses, innovation startups, commercialization, site readiness. We actually have some initiatives in these areas for example, to bring up sites to be shovel ready for businesses looking for locations. And those are outlined in the plan. And so we have a lot of conversations going on, but we would invite you, as you're out doing the great things that you're doing, and identify ideas for potential partners to get them thinking about what they can do. The targeted industries that were identified in the plan are financial and business services, food and beverage manufacturing, information technology, light manufacturing, biomedical, and biotechnology. So you need to do, so for example, a talent development project in the food and beverage manufacturing area would clearly qualify as long as we have more than 2 localities, but we want to think bigger than that. Does that make sense? Okay, I know you guys have a busy schedule today. So here's some potential project examples in these 3 areas. For example, scale under the area of entrepreneurship and startup or innovation. You could do a scale of existing clusters in your area, and there are resources for doing that, or between 3 or 4 counties in our region. So this just gives you some ideas that you can react to start thinking about projects that qualify. Thank you. But these funds cannot be used for construction, except as ancillary to site development, some of the things I just mentioned. You can't incentivize grants to private they can't be incentive grants to private companies, cannot fund trade missions or economic development marketing or quality of life projects. Moving on. This is the scoring guidelines. These are the scoring guidelines outlined by the state. So what will happen is if we have a project that gets fully defined and submitted to the Region 9 Council for review, the Region 9 Council has to approve it, and then the state board evaluates it based on this rubric right here. Mostly, a lot of it will analyze economic impact and the regional collaboration of those grants, as well as project readiness and sustainability. Thank you. So how will it work if you want to apply? On our website, govirginia9.org, there is a pre-application that we request people fill out, simple, so that you can be in contact with someone like myself to make sure your project qualifies. We've also been successful at when we get multiple projects in, we can connect people and get them to work together. But that will advance to the next level. And then if you do meet the qualifications, you can advance to a full project application, which we help you complete. And then those projects are submitted to the regional council for approval, and we have some subject matter experts looking at them. Interregional projects are highly sought after, so if you have ideas, we'd love to talk to you. You can advance to the next slide. Actually, that's just an image of our website. So we are out visiting, getting in front of boards of supervisors, talking about the project ideas. We also are talking to people who are putting some together at many different stages, so we look forward to hearing if there are any in this area. Please reach out to me. In the brochures I gave you, there's a copy of the application, the state guidelines, as well as our full Region 9 plan. Any questions, comments?
Shannon, we have something in the county called RAP-U, stands for RAP University.
Okay.
It's an adult education program.
Right.
Just kind of started up a couple of years ago. They do everything from home health training, they're doing some, I think some training around basic EMT, as well as just all kinds of different classes, planning and zoning, conservation easements, so
Okay.
as well as just people with certain expertise that just want to walk in class. I mean, is this the type of program where that organization could apply for?
I think we have to talk about it. I'd be glad to talk about it in more detail. There are definitely many talent workforce development projects being considered. The more people engaged, such as community colleges, universities, for a regional approach, or what I do know they're looking for, and we've had many conversations. For example, Piedmont Workforce Network, which I know Mr. Frazier is on the council. Okay. They've been talking about some ideas as well, so I think that is the start of a good idea of how it can create something new. It does have to be something new. It can be something that's sustaining funding. Does that make sense?
Okay, so it has to be a new, you're saying it has to be.
Well, it could be a current initiative that's existing, but we have to create a new initiative to create higher paying jobs. That's all, and I think that's not hard to do. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Okay.
Thank you.
But thank you for bringing that up, and I can reach out to you.
Well, yeah, we don't have, LFCC is not here.
Okay.
We don't have, we're too small. I'm sure you know a little bit about us.
Yes.
I imagine.
Yes.
Most of what you're talking about here are, site readiness. I mean, that doesn't even hit the radar screen.
Right.
So maybe ecotourism, agribusiness,
Right.
entrepreneurship, but most of this is.
So some pieces don't connect, so the thought is, at least like when we have thoughts, that if we have a project that does hit every other county, or 3 or 4 around here, that we can certainly, we want to engage in the conversation to make sure Rappahannock is involved, because it does, it is part of our region. Is that, I understand what you're saying about site readiness. That's not going to be for everybody.
Anything that happens in Culpeper or Fauquier could turn into jobs for.
Right. And I will say, for example, in that area, they're looking at some projects like in cybersecurity, workforce training. Maybe RAP-U could extend to.
There you go.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
Great comment, thank you. Yes.
Actually, I have 2 questions, because I read your handout online, and it does sound like a lot of the current projects are things that would be initially interesting to Rappahannock, but obviously, like Ron was saying, that those potential projects could provide job opportunities
Right.
if that were possible. The other thing is, what do you consider higher paying jobs?
Right, so every county is different, and so the case can be made in the application. So I've heard numbers as I've gone to different Go Virginia meetings statewide at above $45,000.
Okay.
But I've also seen Helen Coffin answer the question at different board of supervisors meeting, for your particular county, what is a higher paying job, and can you document that? Okay? Does that, you can support the question. Great question, thank you. Thank you.
treasurer had let you know ahead of time that she was not going to be able to be here, so any questions you have, I can certainly relay to her.
Is this on any of the attachments? The treasurer's report? Maybe not so much, if I may, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Maybe not so much for the treasurer, but notice in the expenditures, we're heading down that path again with respect to contracted care of juveniles. We're at 86% of expenditures already in our FY18 budget, and I don't believe we have a replacement yet for Crystal Hale, do we?
Yes,
We do?
Jen Parker.
Oh, okay. My apologies. I guess I would be, I don't know if other board members share my concern or interest in maybe having Ms. Parker give us a report on what the situation is with our budget as it relates to juvenile care or foster homes. That's a big number, and I think we should probably find out if she has any idea where we may be headed on that, because I can just see more fiscal angst on this going down the rest of the year. I don't know how other board members feel about that, especially since she's new in the position, I guess.
And that's an annual problem.
It is an annual problem, and maybe there's some things there that we haven't looked at or haven't thought about it yet. Or maybe we just continue to throw our hands up that this is just the nature of the society that we're living in now. And if so, we probably need to be budgeting a lot more going into FY19, because we're already about 90% through what we budgeted for this year, even if a lot of it is flow-through money from the feds. Just my only question, Mr. Chairman.
So you'd like her on the agenda next month as well?
I would. I don't know if other board members feel that same way, then I certainly would. So I think it could be a good opportunity to meet the new head of social services.
Sounds reasonable.
I think it's a good idea.
Okay. Anything else? If I could just get members' attention, I think it's page 8 or 15 in the same report, expenditures. If you'll look at the number for building and keep that number in mind when we get to that part of the agenda later on. We're at 64.88%. The money that we allocated for building inspection. And if you remember correctly, when we get to that point, in the agenda, we'll have to discuss it, but we developed the budget this year with the idea that we would increase the fees to cover the expense of a higher paid building official. So that I didn't expect it to show up this early when I first asked for that on the agenda, but that's what we talk about later. We're going to correct this. We already discussed that earlier, months ago.
Okay, we got next is the accounts payable.
Gentlemen, you have two sets of accounts payable. The one on October 17th for $17,673.46 would have been comprised of those payables that you have approved to be paid mid-month, with you giving your approval after the fact, like utility bills. And then the normal list of accounts payable for November the 6th, totaling $292,299.07. Can you pull some up on the big screen?
I started looking at something and the screen turns black.
Which one?
In the accounts payable, I was just going to take a look
Which
at it.
was the 17th or the 6th?
The 6th. stinks, man.
Mine does the same thing.
That's fine.
I'm the new guy, so I got a new machine.
I want to see if they smell.
Not for long.
I like the 6.
No, that's good. Putting too much on it, that just don't refresh myself real quick.
That and I looked at.
So I'll make a motion that we pay the accounts payable.
I have one question. We have advertising in the Washington Post. Can you see where that is? Account number 72041, on 1106, I believe.
One of those, is it more than one? One of them was the advertisement for the public hearing, but I missed the date, and so I had to advertise in other papers that met the legal definition of paper of general circulation in the county, which is more expensive.
I'll second the motion, Mr. Chairman.
Motion made and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carried.
That was both sets, right?
Yes.
Okay, request for supplemental appropriation.
This item is from an earlier agenda when we asked to transfer $26,000 from the county's buildings and maintenance to the school transfer because we wanted that contract for school maintenance to be out of the school fund. And at the time, Mr. Frazier, you asked if we needed a supplemental appropriation, and I said no, and I was wrong. Ms. Nick and I would talk about it later and realized we had both missed it because you approved the transfer within the general fund, but the $26,000 still has to be appropriated to the school plan, and we missed it. So that's what the supplemental appropriation is, so they can actually spend the money. And my apologies that we didn't get it the first time.
So I'll make a motion that we go ahead and transfer that.
You're approving the supplemental appropriation.
Right, supplemental appropriation for the schools.
I'll second it.
Motion made and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye also. Migration and email provider.
The county currently uses GoDaddy for its email, which is an extraordinarily poor email service. Our IT consultant, David Yao, recommended, I think, a number of months ago that we consider something else. And we have posted the request for proposals, request for bids to do a migration while he was doing research. And he is recommending that we switch to, from GoDaddy to a more robust email system called G Suite, which is offered through Google. It includes cloud storage and document sharing. It allows better administrative control over the system and increased security. And it also includes e-discovery across email accounts, which improves our ability to respond to FOIA requests. It would cost us annually about $7,200 a year. So I am asking for permission from the board to move to that email provider instead of GoDaddy. I'm not sure, because I haven't had time to research, to be honest with you, where I can find the $7,200, but I'm almost sure that I can come back to you next month and move money around. I just checked with Mr. Lisinski. he doesn't need the full 8,000 for the broadband. So part of that could be moved into the line item to do this, and I think I can sort of beg, borrow, and steal from some other line items, move it into this one and cover this expense. GoDaddy is extremely limiting in the ability to retrieve emails, to respond to FOIA requests. There is a limit on the number of emails that you can send and receive in a day that some of you have, butted up against. We have some email accounts that don't have a limit on it because they can't or they won't be able to function, but we can only have so many of those. So my recommendation, even though it will cost us some extra money this particular year, because we've already spent some money on GoDaddy, is that you spend the $7,200, migrate to a better system, which Mr. Yao said would take maybe a month or so to get around to all the laptops and reconfigure and all the iPads. But once we do that, I think we would have a much improved email capability for all the users on the county email.
Would we continue to have the same email address? Or would that
Yes, yes, I think it's the same email address, it's just going through a different server. So I'm asking for the board's authorization to move, because it's $7,200, I can't approve it. For the board's authorization to move forward with that, and then I will have to come back to you with a request to move money around if need be.
This certainly doesn't work. It's done as I know, this doesn't work.
It does not work. I'm not agreeing with the first part of the statement.
No agreement necessary.
And as the alleged chief FOIA violator of the county, I think this would actually be quite good for the county to be able to achieve the retrieval of documents in a timely manner, because I don't see any stop to those requests.
Again, FOIA automatically is invoked when a citizen asks for information, including this thing that you got prior. If somebody from Richmond has, as they're presenting themselves as a Virginia resident, they didn't have to say the word FOIA. They made a request for information under FOIA, a local government is supposed to give it to them.
I have absolutely no problem with that whatsoever, and understand that that's what we need to do to comply. My comment was simply around staff's ability to do so in a more efficient manner, pull this information together, without having to spend hours and hours doing it. I mean, different requests require different levels of information, but from a document archive and retrieval perspective, this system sounds like it's a lot better than GoDaddy, and probably a lot more secure too, is it not?
It has, I believe, double layers of security is the way our IT consultant described it, and it has the capacity to store our emails, which is a retrieval issue and a records retention issue. So it's an improvement in so many ways, I don't even think I can explain it over what we have now. What we have now is very, very poor. It's very, very cheap, but it's very, very poor.
Yeah, I noticed some of your email went into junk, and then you would have missed it all together if you not.
I had a FOIA request that went into my junk mail, and I just happened to read through the emails before I deleted them and found it, or I wouldn't have found it.
I'll make a motion that we authorize Ms. Gardner to go ahead and implement this new system.
Happy to second that, Mr. Chair.
Motion made second, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carried. Another supplemental appropriation, a little bit larger than the last.
The supplemental appropriation request that's in your board packet, Ms. Grimsley referred to, but you can't actually approve tonight because you cannot approve a supplemental appropriation of the size that they have asked for, which is $563,515.44, without yet again amending your budget. So this item, I would need an action from the board, I think, to table until your next meeting. And I'm asking for And later on in the agenda, in the evening, I'll be asking for authorization to advertise a public hearing to amend your budget, including this $563,000, so that upon holding the public hearing and acting on that amended budget, it would incorporate this supplemental appropriation request. So,
Should we amend that under new business, because you've already got authorization there for 3 different public hearings?
it's one of those. It is one of those. It's S3.
That'll be S3, okay.
It's already there. So we just need an action on number 5 to table to the next meeting,
I'll make that motion, Mr. Chairman. Table it for tonight's meeting.
which is December the
I'll second it.
Motion made and second. All those in favor say aye. All opposed, nay. Motion carried.
Thank you.
We're just tabling further discussion because we have to do the authorization tonight. And the public hearing will be next month. That's what I thought.
You could, piecemeal do some of these appropriations until you hit the limit, but I just didn't see any point in doing that at this point. I would point out to you, if you look at the list, and it is in the packet, the original request that came from the schools is not, that's not the right document, sorry. It's federal funds, it's grants, it's a health insurance rebate, it's out-of-county tuition. It's all federal funds that we have access to that haven't been used and that can be used if they're appropriated, or grants, so it's not local, none of it's local money. I mean, it's local money, tuition's local money, but it's not local tax money.
Mr. Chairman, can I ask the superintendent a question?
Yes, sir.
This is delayed to public hearing next month. Does that put the schools at any financial hardship? Is there? Thank you.
Next item, public comment. Anyone wishing to or desiring to speak will have the opportunity to do so. To be recognized, please raise your hand. When recognized, please state your name and the district that you're from. Direct your comments to the board, and I will declare public comment open. Who would like to speak? Yes, sir. You scared me. I thought we were going to get off the line.
Good on. Paige Glinney from Jackson District. Gentlemen, good afternoon and thank you for the opportunity to address you today. First, I will comment on the minutes, or should I call them the hours. A 37-page report on a 6-hour meeting is not a summary. That is 6 pages per hour, or 10 pages per minute, or 10 minutes per page, I'm sorry. This is a perfect example of the excess administrative costs that are driving your overhead costs so high. Then how many hours did you gentlemen spend reviewing these minutes for today's approval? That's a lot of labor, all right? Next, I'd like to address the misleading statements made by Mr. Parrish at the candidate forum. Using Ms. Gardner's spreadsheet on supplemental appropriations and the actual appropriation documentation on board docs, I'd like to correct a few facts. The permanent recurring additional spending is $94,810, not $66,230. The one-time expenditures are $116,161, not $38,000. The supplemental appropriations that were pass-throughs was only $155,605 of the total supplemental appropriations of $411. that is only 30%, not a majority. The total supplemental appropriations does not include approved spending of which you have not executed the appropriations. There is another $180,000, which makes total spending prior to today, which you did a good job today, $590,000. In regards to Mr. Lazinski's legal defense, I am adamantly opposed to using any of my tax dollars to pay for Mr. Lazinski's indefensible violation of COIA. He was notified by Mr. Goff on August 23rd that he needed to disclose his conflict prior to voting for the litigation funding. I understand that your resolution establishing the litigation fund allows for this expense. However, I would like to know why the new litigation clause in our VML insurance policy is not being used. In regards to hiring of the new county administrator, when will the public be able to see the terms of the contract? Where is the supplemental appropriation to amend the budget? Because you're not going to make it to the end of the year on that line item. How is it appropriate to hire a new county administrator the day after an election? Finally, members of this board and some citizens have labeled the recent legal actions against the county as frivolous. It is wrong to criticize anyone, more or less a constituent, because they choose to exercise their right to have the judicial branch determine if laws were broken by this board as they believe. Was Dred Scott, a Missouri slave, wrong to sue for his freedom in 1857? Were Oliver and Darlene Brown wrong to stand up against segregated schools? In our traditional form of county government, there is no elected executive branch to act as a check and balance on the legislative branch, Board of Supervisors. That responsibility rests solely with the citizens. To codify that power, the Virginia legislature enacted 2.2418, which states the operation of open and responsible government requires the fullest opportunity to be afforded to the people to petition their government for the redress of grievances and to express freely their opinions on legislative and executive actions. Thank you for your time.
Anyone else care to speak?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Tough act to follow. Gentlemen, good afternoon. My name is Dave Baconic. I'm from Stonewall Hawthorne District. And I also want to speak to this, what I see on your agenda about the hiring of a new county administrator. And I want to second what Mr. Glennie said. Proves, I guess, that great minds think alike. You've got on your...
Excuse me.
No, Mike,
I'm sorry.
You've got on your agenda a discussion of this in closed session today. Under closed meeting item N1, closed meeting discussion, consideration, and interviews of candidates. Then you propose to continue the meeting to Wednesday, November 8th, the day after tomorrow. And you've got under there 2 items of new business: approval of the contract for the county administrator and the introduction of the new county administrator. So I guess whoever it is has already been picked out if you're at that stage. And I just want to say that first of all, I don't think I'm misstating it, the county administrator is probably the most powerful person in the county. The county administrator is probably the highest paid person in the county. We don't have any idea at this stage what they're going to be paid, but if it's passed as prologue, it's somewhere around $100,000. So the county administrator wields a huge amount of power and authority, as anybody who comes to these meetings can see. And I don't say that by way of criticism, that's just kind of a fact of life, the way things are at present. And the reason for that, as I addressed the other night, and you were all there, so I'm not going to repeat it, is you have ceded an awful lot of authority to the county administrator. I think that the people of the county, from my speaking with them over the past month, going door to door and talking to people, are really concerned about this. And they're not very happy about it, I can tell you that, in my district. And I think that one of the concerns that people have is to be lorded over, basically, by somebody they don't even know. They don't even, it's not even from Rappahannock County, to my knowledge. If it is, I think you should say that. You should announce it. But to bring somebody in from the outside, and no offense to you, Brenda, I think you've done a fine job in the short time you've been here, like you're just a temporary person. This is going to be a permanent hire, I hope, or you hope, or everybody hopes, because it costs a lot of money to go through this process. And yet, people don't know anything about it. People don't know anything about the contract terms, and we've already been through at least one litigation about that and got the answer. If you have agreed of what the contract terms are going to be, you're supposed to release the contract. And I think people are entitled to know. The taxpayers are entitled to know, what is the salary going to be? What other benefits are you offering? What incentives and what provisions are in this contract, to the extent they're any different from what's standard? And if they are what's standard, what's been offered before, then people have a right to know that before you make the decision. And I think that it is wrong what the board is proposing to do. And I want to point out to you that while you are within your rights under the Freedom of Information Act to discuss personnel matters as they're defined in an executive session, the statute says you may discuss them in executive session. Not you must, or not you shall. You may. And I think there are reasons why certain personnel decisions obviously should be done in private. But I also think that there are important public policy considerations why a decision like this should be made not in private, and certainly not in the manner that you are proposing to do it, where there's absolutely no opportunity for the public to do anything except stand up like a bunch of trained seals on Wednesday and applaud your wonderful choice. I think that is wrong. And I don't think that's the way you should do it, especially because nobody up there knows what is going to happen tomorrow, and you're not going to know it at 10 a.m. on Wednesday either, in all likelihood. And if there are new members on the board, I don't think it's prudent to proceed in this manner, because the person that you're hiring, you know, who knows what happened, what's going to happen. He might say, I don't want to work for that guy. Or he may not want to work for somebody else, or the circumstances could change. Now, I don't see any reason to rush like this to get this person on board. I don't see why you can't wait a week or even a month. Because I assume you're hiring a fairly competent person, and I assume that they're going to come here and pick up where Brenda left off. I'm sure there'll be a transition period. If you put this decision off until December, that's going to give Brenda a whole month to work with whoever it is and get them, you know, hand off the baton, so there'll be a nice, smooth transition. I have no idea why you're rushing to judgment on this, just like I don't know why you rushed to judgment on the bicycle path, just like I don't know why you're rushing to judgment on the zoning proposed amendments and railroading all this stuff through. The Freedom of Information Act says the affairs of government are not to be conducted in an atmosphere of secrecy, because the public is the ultimate beneficiary of all actions of government. And what you are doing maybe, and that's a big capital M on maybe it complies with the letter of the law, but it certainly does not comply with the spirit of the law. Thank you.
Anybody else care to speak? Anybody else? Fair public comment, public.
Bruce Hutchison is, right, come up from Jackson. He's not appointed.
I can put his name forward. I still have one or two other people that are interested, so I need to get the applications to them. Been doing it.
Yeah, I think that, I know him, he's a good candidate. I think in the event you get another candidate from your district, you could also put that
At
forward.
least one more, yeah.
So, would you go make a motion? Or?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and put Mr. Hutchinson's name forward, nomination for appointment to the Park and Rec Authority Board, Recreation Facilities Authority.
I'll second that.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Just one appointment to the board. Board of Directors for People Incorporated.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, the applicant for this position is a plaintiff in a conflict of interest, alleged conflict of interest matter involving me. I think it would be best if I recuse myself from this particular matter on the agenda.
Well, then I know Mr. Woolman, I want to go ahead and put his name forward for nomination for appointment.
What was the name again?
Tom Woolman, Thomas Woolman. Just like that.
I have a problem with this applicant. The letter from Mr. Goldsmith, the president and CEO of People Inc., states that it's only three prerequisites. One is to be 18 years of age. One is not be an employee or immediate family member or employee of People Inc. And the other is it can either be an elected public official currently holding office or is a person knowledgeable about the needs of economically disadvantaged people in Rappahannock County. And I read Mr. Bowman's resume, and it doesn't appear that he has any knowledge of the needs of economically disadvantaged people. And so in that respect, I would not recommend him for this board.
You said you didn't see something in the resume itself that applied to that?
I didn't see anything that applied to that. I would like to see if any other applicants would come forward before we, make a decision on this spot.
When do we need to make it?
Huh?
When do we need to make it?
Well, not today. It also could be a public
previously held by the social services director.
We would obviously be familiar with economically disadvantaged people.
You might be interested in being appointed,
The new one.
yes, police department.
So, yeah, I would either say we postpone it for a month and go ahead and possibly advertise it. It's important. Uh,
How much does it cost each time we advertise? I have no idea, but I don't know who.
That sounds like a good idea to me.
So we can do that by consensus.
Yes, it will be. The next one is the appointment to the Blue Ridge Committee.
Mr. Chairman, I just wanted minutes to reflect that I abstained from any, I'm not part of that consensus. Abstaining from that matter.
You don't know if People Incorporated will.
So to make a consensus, who are the 3 members of